started back again. This is our longest session, and this can be short or long depending on your questions. And so, again, I want to make sure that you understand you can ask a question at any time. You can make a comment at any time. Make sure that you just let me know. But this is device control in your home. Now, this falls under the category firmly of tip of the iceberg. Like, this is just the very tippy top of the iceberg. And you all know that 95% of the iceberg is under the water, okay? And so a lot of this stuff applies of like, hey, this is a good setting to do, and this is gonna take you like 2 hours. So you gotta go home and look at all this, and it's a lot, okay? So I will say that we've got some comparisons to make first. And I'm a nerd, in case you hadn't figured that out. I am a nerd, and when I go into a cell phone store, I look and I see all the different brands, right? I see all the different, and sometimes you can do that. Sometimes you can even tell the difference, like, okay, well, this is Android and this is Apple, and I know the difference. But there's a lot of people that don't know the difference at all. And there's a lot of people that just see a sea of black rectangles, okay? And so what I'm trying to say with that is that Apple and Android treat privacy very differently. Now, none of them are perfect. Neither one is correct, honestly. Both of them, tech-wise, are going to be right neck and neck. You cannot go wrong with either of them. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that if you find yourself being an Android family, you probably all need to be on Android, and vice versa. If you've got an Apple phone, don't get your kid an Android phone, okay? Stay on the same platform. I actually talked about Kindle devices to somebody when we were on the break, and these are Kindle devices, Kindle Fire devices specifically, that run a modified version of Android. And so they actually, it's just a fork of Android. And so there's going to be a lot of the same settings and a lot of different stuff. Google tends to want to outsource parental controls to apps. Apple would rather you have parental controls on the device using screen time or something. What you'll find is that screen time, it lacks a lot of like specificity, if I can say that correctly. It lacks a lot of granular controls and stuff that you want to get done. And for a long time, I mean, it was a long time. For a long time there, I was actually recommending, if you really wanted a device for your child, an Android phone is the way to go, because you could actually just get a whole lot more done. Because Apple, for a long time, would not allow you to use apps that could actually do proper parental controls. Well, now that's a thing of the past, and Apple usually allows a lot of those things. So these platforms are equal. However, Google and Apple, they're front-facing media. I guess their PR would be telling you that they treat privacy very differently. And they do. If you know you're using a Google platform, you know that they're using your data and things like that. But you can use Google platforms on an iPhone too. And so it kind of all goes together and makes sense. So these lines are not quite as stark as they were 5 or even 10 years ago. So whatever you pick, just make sure that your family is all on the same kind of devices. That's actually way more important on the Android side than it is on the Apple side. Because on the Android side, I would make sure that not only are you all on Android, but also you're on the same manufacturer, meaning you're all Samsung or you're all whatever other, Android devices there are, okay? That makes sense? I'm gonna try to stop and ask for questions at each one of these slides, because I can get really quick with this, and I don't wanna skip any questions or anything like that, okay? There's a few things here that I always like to mention before we kind of get into really talking about parental controls. Make sure your child hasn't purchased another device. This is actually a thing. Did you know this? Kids will purchase old iPhones for $20 and $50. They'll make a Apple ID just so they can play Roblox on it and use the Wi-Fi. They don't have to have a cell phone plan attached to an old iPhone. So again, this is one of those things that you need to make sure is not happening. I'm not saying that it is, But some kids are really sneaky doing these kinds of things, and you need to figure out if there's another device being used in your home, okay? There's an easy way to find that out. There's also a hard way to figure that out. The easy way is to use a Wi-Fi router like the ones that we're going to talk about, use some of the technology we're going to talk about here in a second to identify the devices that are actually on your network, on your Wi-Fi at home, which is super cool and super easy to do nowadays. And the hard way is to literally find out from your kid or find out, hey, or ask them, hey, do you have another device I don't know about? You should probably be asking that anyways. And just to make sure and tell them, hey, you're not having a device I don't know about. You're not going to use a device that I don't know about, okay? The second thing, make sure your child knows not to sign into someone else's iCloud or Google Play account. Now, an iCloud account on an iPhone, what does that control? Anybody know? What does that have on it? The answer is everything. It has your credit card numbers, it has your contacts, your pictures from probably forever ago, right? It has your calendar events, it has all sorts of stuff that you have synced through those things. Do not let your kids sign into someone else's iCloud. You can do that. Don't let them do that, okay? Google Play's the same way. Don't let them do that on an Android device, okay? And then the last thing here, just make sure that you have parental controls set, because I don't know how many parents I've talked to that think they have the parental controls enabled, and then they go and check their kids' phones and they're like, oh, these were turned off like a month and a half ago, and I didn't know it. So this is why you need to check those phones, do a hand check, man. Hand check those phones every week or two and make sure that they're set up exactly the way you want it, because this is not a set it and forget it type of thing. This is not, we're going to set it once, never worry about it again. That's not how this works. You've got to constantly be checking up on this. I will tell you, from doing the digital parenting channel on YouTube for a little while, I will post something about what kids are doing with this, or what this app is a good parental control app for this. And one of the first comments is some 13-year-old on the comment thing going, hey, this is how you get around this. It happens. And so again, remember, they are kids. They're going to do kid stuff. They're going to get into trouble. They're going to want to do things that you do not want them to do. That does not mean all this stuff is evil that they want to do. I'm just saying there are kids, okay? Questions? Observations? Gripes? Okay. This looks complicated. It's really not that complicated, okay? The first thing that I'm going to be talking about is kind of this, just splitting it up into like different sections, multiple walls, okay? The first section right here is a filter or software on your physical Wi-Fi device, or a physical Wi-Fi device. You can buy an all-inclusive thing that it all does it on the physical Wi-Fi device. The only examples I've got here are Eero and TP-Link. Has anybody ever heard of those? Okay, we have an Eero device. Now, I actually have to ask this question before we get into this. What is the internet service provider around here primarily? What do y'all use? AT&T. So there's a lot. Okay, because sometimes I go to communities and they're just like, oh, it's Jim Bob's internet service and that's all we have here. Well, if you've only got Jim Bob's internet service, then that's all you got to pick from. But it sounds like you guys have choice. So whether or not that's tied to your cable, whether or not that's tied to whatever it is, if you have the ability to use your own equipment, meaning I go to Walmart and buy a TP-Link Wi-Fi router myself rather than use the one they give me, then do that. If you have AT&T, they don't allow you to do that. They will allow you to do that if you go jump through a bunch of hoops, okay? But each internet service provider has a different set of rules. I love my internet service provider in Columbia because we have a few to choose from, but mine is a co-op and they literally just bring the cord to your door and be like, okay, it's up to you now. And I'm like, that's exactly what I want because I can set it all up myself. But what these companies want is they want to set it up themselves, they want to maintain it themselves so that when you break it or when it breaks itself, then they can come and repair it or replace it very easily. If you have your own stuff, that becomes pretty difficult for them. Now, what you can do is say, I would like to use another Wi-Fi router, and in that case, you would actually have to purchase one of these and use one of these. All that being said, if you have something like a Spectrum, well, I know that AT&T has a parental Wi-Fi control feature that is built into an app that you can download, and you can sign into your AT&T account and you can manage it that way. So there are options using their stuff and their equipment. But I have found that kind of rolling your own here is really quite neat, okay? The one up here that I've got, OpenDNS, that is a free filter service that you can put on anything regardless of who your internet service provider is. So you can actually put that on your child's phone, and it automatically enables a filter for them for the internet and for things like that. So I would highly look at that, highly recommend that. We use that at Graymere. We use an advanced version of it at Graymere, so we can actually see all the network traffic as it's happening, which is really cool. You don't have to get that far in depth, but you can pay them a couple of bucks a year and get some reports sent to you on what your child visited, all sorts of different stuff. And you can use that in cooperation with another parental control app, and you can really have a pretty powerful kind of setup, okay? This is about when I start talking and people just kind of get this deer in the headlights. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, y'all understand? Yes? No? Y'all ever seen Lonnie Jones? He goes, this is yes, this is no. This is I'm not paying attention, right? Okay? So, yes, that is what we do. Yes, ma'am?
Can someone actually be a certain distance from your Wi-Fi and actually hack into your Wi-Fi and use it?
If you have a weak password, yes, ma'am. If you have a very weak password, they can probably do that. Yes, ma'am. Wall number 2 up there is using a combination of the built-in parental controls and a third-party app. So anytime I say third-party app, what I mean is something not made by Apple, something not made by Google, okay? Screen Time is made by Apple. It's built into every iOS device. You can even do it on a Mac if you want to. Family Link, and also along with that, I believe they call it Digital Wellbeing now too. You can download that on Android devices. But the cool thing about that is that you can use those apps on the iPhone too. So you can technically use Family Link and Digital Wellbeing on Apple as well. Everything for Google, they make work with Apple, but it's not the other way around. You can't use Screen Time on an Android device. Does that make sense? Some of you are like, well, yeah, sure, I guess. Okay. And then, of course, you've heard of Life 360. How many of y'all use that? Yeah? Every time I run into people that love that. There's one that I recommend called Hour Packed. It's not the best in the world. It is not the most updated in the world, but it is everywhere, and it has been around for a long time. I used to have this just big, long list of apps that I'd recommend to parents, and parents would just come up to me and be like, just tell me what the best one is. Those are probably the best ones, okay? And they have been for a little while. Now, there's others that have come up that are really good. Has anybody ever heard of Custodio? It starts with a Q. That one's a pretty good one if you want to check that out. Anybody ever heard of Bark? Okay, has anybody used Bark with any success? I've heard of plenty of people hearing of Bark. I have not yet found one person who has been satisfied with Bark. Bark is a really cool idea. It just doesn't work very well. It's supposed to use recognition on the screen to figure out if a kid is being bullied. It reads all the text. It reads everything on the screen. It just does not work really well. And I haven't checked up on it in about a year, so I probably need to check up on it again, but that's another one. So again, these are kind of apps that you have to put on here. So use these in conjunction with these, and then you get down to this step right here. And this is what you call app by app audits. And what I mean by that is to say, you go into every app's settings and you audit those settings. You look at those settings, you set those settings. It could take you 5 minutes. It could take you 50 minutes to sift through some of these settings. If you go to the desktop version of Facebook, There are 1 billion settings for privacy, for sharing, for group, for everything under the sun. It's become so complicated, okay? But if you go to the settings app, and this is very interesting because sometimes you go to the settings in the app, sometimes you go to the settings outside the app. It's all different. It's based upon what that company does, okay? And we're going to use YouTube and Netflix as an example, and we're going to talk about them a little bit today, okay? All right, questions?
Is this the same thing that you said, say you do all that and it takes you 50 minutes that a kid just could undo quickly?
In some cases,
And all those you have to redo?
in some cases, yes, but that's not likely. That was kind of a little bit of a joke, but at the same time, there is going to be loopholes and ways to get around some of the stuff anyways, okay? And that is the reason why I say you got to remain vigilant with this kind of stuff. You got to be checking it every week, not every month, not every year. You got to be checking it every week or every 2 weeks, just to make sure. And sometimes that involves just a quick check of those things to make sure they're still in place. So I'll give you an example. My 13-year-old, love him so much. He is so creative. He wants to look up videos and credits, and he loves animation. He loves doing animation. And iOS updated, this was not this year, this was last year. iOS updated on his iPad and turned off all the parental controls. Don't know why. We have 3 devices there, and that's the only one it did it with. No idea why. But it went around for about 3 weeks. He had access to Safari. Now, he did get a little curious with some things. We looked into his history, we looked into all sorts of the stuff that he did, and most of it was fine. There were a few things like, we're gonna have to talk about this kind of stuff. So that was pretty difficult. And so knowing that my kid had unrestricted access to the internet for just 2 or 3 weeks was pretty disheartening. So that is why you have to check these things pretty periodically, okay? And it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. It's a good question. What else? What other questions you have? At this point, you are just like, let's get this over with. Okay. I'm not going to go over all the slides on this stuff. Just know I really like the Eero devices. We've had them in our home for a while. They're pretty cost effective. If you can use them with your internet service provider, you can pay $2.99 a month. You can get their Eero Pro service, and it's got filtering built in for you. So this is one of those kinds of things where you go, okay, I can set this and probably forget about it for a little while. And you can monitor network traffic. This is one of those that if my family is not home, we're actually staying in a cabin in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina, about 2 hours north of here. But if they were at home, I could actually go on my phone right now and see exactly what they're doing. I could see what website they're using or what they're accessing or what kind of app they're using. I could shut down the internet access to their iPad from my phone here in Georgia. When they're in Tennessee, I could do all sorts of cool stuff with that. AT&T, I know, gives you some of this kind of control on their parental controls app as well. And so you'll have different kind of overlapping features on all these different kinds of services. What you need to identify is the service that you use, and then if they have a good parental control app, how do you use that? If they do not have a good parental control app for you and your kids, or one that you just don't like, then you need to explore the possibility of using another piece of equipment, getting something like your own Wi-Fi router. Does that make sense? Okay. And so Eero is just one of those devices. Very good. They're available everywhere. And if you haven't updated your Wi-Fi router in a while, you might do that because you might get better speeds, you might get better coverage, you might get better parental controls with an updated model, and you might get a better price per month. Who knows? They just want to keep you as a customer. So if you call and negotiate a little bit with these companies, they might be able to do some extra stuff for you. Okay? Eeros, this is what they look like. They're real easy to set up. They literally, They used to say in the military, break it down Barney style. They break it down Barney style for you. Like it is just, okay, plug this in here, and you plug this in here, and then you download the app, and then you do, and it's just super simple. It's actually really, really easy to use. Okay, and I said this before, but start with these things first. You really only need to go to parental control apps that are more advanced if you need more things being controlled. Yes, sir, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that the whole wall one, kids could completely bypass that by just going on their cell phone network instead of your home Wi-Fi.
If you have something like this, they can't do
Is
that.
that on that's on the device?
Yeah. So you can go one step further and do something like an OpenDNS on there. Is there a way to get around any of this stuff? Yeah. But at the same time, if they had, the thing about DNS, OpenDNS and something like it, Eero I like with their filter system, if you're logged onto the Wi-Fi, yes, that's how that is. But when you put something, when you go to OpenDNS and you put it on the device itself, then it actually acts as when they're on the cell phone network as well. So that's a really good point. So yeah, you want to protect them everywhere, not when they're just at home. Okay, I meant to say that, and he did a good job pointing that out. Thank you. Other questions? Okay, screen time is, again, decent, not perfect. So is Google Play Family Link. It's also decent, not perfect. You may find a lot of the controls there that you want. You may not. You just need to be able to use those. The important thing is that you have a parental control app on the device, that you can at least see what they're doing in whole or in part, and that you can actually grant them access and grant them time. I told you about the time that we grant for certain activities on our iPad. They have a certain amount of time at night where they can play this certain game, because we know that we are probably going to be in the same room with them while they're playing that game. And I know that becomes irrelevant when you have teenagers and they're off and doing stuff and whatever. But at this point, that works for us. They can only watch YouTube on the big TV in our house while we're in the room. They can only watch things that they have subscribed to, okay? And again, with little boys, there's a whole lot of, well, you've lost that for the day, or you've lost this for this week, or whatever. So, and we keep track of it on the fridge, like no YouTube for David, and it's just ridiculous, but it actually works for us. That's the new grounding, by the way. It's not grounding you from video games. It's like grounding, oh, you can't watch YouTube. It's, oh, I don't know. It's like the end of the world for them, right? Okay. Apple has a lot, and so does Google, but Apple has a page. This page just keeps on going. Like there is parental controls out the wazoo. They'll have a very nice looking person on there that gives you a very nice little 3-minute video on each one of these settings. It is pretty nice. Google's account services and message boards are actually very good as well. There is so many resources out there for you to look this stuff and do the homework yourself. That is what you've got to do, though. You've got to make sure that the specific problem you're having, you've got to figure out. I will also loop this in. I haven't talked about AI very much today, but ChatGPT. ChatGPT is actually very good at helping figure out problems like this. And you can say, well, you know, I got this screen time setting and I can't figure out where that is. Where is it on my phone? And ChatGPT will just spit it out for you. Oh, it's right here. And most of the time, it's usually pretty good at guiding you on those things because it's pretty up to date because it's pulling in all these resources from the internet. Okay? Questions?
What does that stand for, ChatGPT?
I forget what GPT stands for. Does anybody know? Generative, predictive what? Is that what it, that's all it is? Yeah, I think you're correct. It's a large language model that you can, it's a chat bot that you can, okay, fine. We opened up the can of AI. Let's talk about it, okay. ChatGPT and AIs, quote unquote, I don't call them AI. They're not AI, okay? They're super Google is what they are. They're like super Google. That's all they are. They are a more organized and better looking thing of Google that talks to you like a person would. That's all they are. All they are pulling from is a large language model an LLM of all 4 billion parameters or something from 4 billion different data points, right? And it's pulling from all this and giving you a coherent answer that you can understand, rather than an ad-filled list that you kind of have to search through. Okay, maybe I can find one that actually is what I need, right? And there's a reason why it's become a whole lot very successful. It's because it's very good and very easy to use. And I would say 9 times out of 10, it's right in some stuff. Now, if you go to ask ChatGPT a theological question, that's where it gets interesting. You ever done that before? I would, again, be very, because that is all the rage right now, be very, very cautious in what you give your kids access to when you give them access to that. Yes, sir?
I was just going to say, on the temporal side, part of the challenge with LLMs is it does take a pretty extensive period of time to train the models. So they're typically 12 to 18 months out. So where AI is going to have a better, scenario for use with any of this is if you're looking at more broad things. But the specifics might get you into the specific area or zone. But if you've gone through an iOS upgrade or an Android upgrade, the actual location may be different.
Yes, you're right.
12 months old.
Yeah.
That's drawing from.
But okay, maybe you can answer this question for me then. I was told that as well. So yesterday, I go on to Google Gemini, and I'm sitting there watching UCLA beat the brakes off of Penn State, right? And I Googled, has there ever been an 0-4 team beat a top 10 team before? I just wanted to know. And the game literally read zeros. They were interviewing the athletes on the field, and it said, yes, the UCLA Bruins did this, and it was like telling me information that literally just happened. So I'm like, interested. I was like, I thought it was kind of out of date as well, but I know that some of the models use up-to-date kind of news stuff, and I guess that something like Google Gemini uses a combination of Google search and who knows, right?
Yeah, every Grok and all these different tools are using different algorithms to pull information I'm not familiar with.
And it was just really interesting to me that it would give me that answer with the AI response. I was like, wow, I literally just watched it happen, and it. So, anyways, maybe their AI's in the future, and living in the future, and we just don't know it, right? But yeah, that's a genuine thing, a genuine concern, and it could give you the wrong information because it's out of date. And so that's something that you'll have to be careful with as well. Yes, ma'am.
But isn't it all about prompt engineering and understanding different?
Yes, you can prompt it in certain ways, and it will give you different responses based upon how you prompt it. You're absolutely right.
It's the echo chamber that's perpetuating into AI.
Yep.
You have to tell it what to act like.
You can, yes. You don't have to, but you can do that. I have told it. For instance, I've set up my own like custom GPT and told it, hey, I'm a preacher. I always want things to be Church of Christ centered on Church of Christ doctrine, and I always want you to give me my scripture references in the ESV. And it just goes, okay, I'll do that. And it does it. Until you tell it otherwise, like it does it. And it will act, and what I love is taking a passage for Bible study and going, okay, Matthew 17, the Transfiguration, explain that to me as if I was a third grader. And it will do it, and it's actually pretty fantastic, and you can take bits of that and use it as like a study aid. You can use it in Bible study, all sorts of different cool stuff like that. So again, it's very powerful, but then you get into the aspect of ChatGPT just released something called Sora 2, which is a video generation algorithm. And video generation is becoming the new norm with AI. And you can kind of tell most times, like, oh, this is an AI video. Like, my kids were watching one where the guy went to go get some soap, and it like morphed into a kitty cat. And I'm like, he's like, oh, that's AI. I was like, yeah, that's AI. Of course that's AI, right? but then like there's stuff with like people talking, like Sora 2's big thing that they literally just came out with this week, is that you can, again, we were talking about scanning faces. You can scan your face or you can give it access to certain YouTube videos or certain things that you're in, and it will build an artificial version of you that will sound like you, that will talk like you, that will look mostly like you. And yeah, you can go on there and be like, yeah, you can kind of tell it's AI, but then like sometimes you're like, is that real or not? It's getting into, the creep factor is just going up just every bit by bit, okay? So there's a ton of interesting things out there that are happening, but there's also a ton of things that we should be aware of with these types of things. And that is why my kids will never be on the internet again. Okay, so, and I joke and I kid, but at the same time it's like, okay, there's gonna have to be a lot of rules in our house about stuff like ChatGPT and stuff like that. Like that's a whole nother deal, right? Family sharing, we're running out of time, by the way, so we're trying to get done here. Family sharing is something you should absolutely set up. If you have not, you do have to set it up on iOS. I know there's a comparable Android feature that's really, really cool. They can download stuff, you can approve it. I actually was sitting here with when I pulled out my phone, there was like 3 requests from my 13-year-old to download something, and I'm like, get to it later. But it's kind of one of those things like, that's what you want. You don't want them to be able to download anything. That's the parental controls that you need to set. Really make sure that they're set, because if they can download an app, usually that's what they have to do to circumvent some of the things that we're talking about, okay? Usually it's well, you just go download this app and it's a VPN, and so if it's a VPN, you can bypass all that stuff and it doesn't matter. Well, if they can't download the app in the first place, then they can't do that. And so you really need to, you can lock these devices down. You can really get an iPhone and lock it down to just a texting and phone machine if you really want to. And it's pretty outstanding that you can do those things now. Questions? Apple Find My, make sure you turn it on. You have to do that, by the way. Don't be like the girl that lost her phone in the middle of a Indian reservation when we were on our youth mission trip. Google Play Family Link is really cool. There's some screenshots here. I kind of blazed through this, but both of these apps, Family Link, and then you've got the version on iOS Screen Time, they're pretty comparable and can accomplish about what you want. Until you get to a certain age, then you've got probably more needs. And that's when something like Life 360 comes on into play. Life 360 is like really location tracking for your kids. And it gives you, I love what it does, it gives you the speed that they're going down the highway. That's really cool. You can actually, so you say you love it. Would you tell me why you love it?
Well, I have a 20-year-old who's out of state, and she started driving at 16. I could see exactly where she was. I could see how fast she was going. It would tell me if her driving was erratic or not. I could see the history of where she was at for how long.
And you would choose travel with other people, like send her a message, tell so-and-so to slow down.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
You can set geofences up to see when they leave a spot or when they arrive at a spot. You can say,
When they go home and go to school. So yeah, when she learned to drive, we would set it and I had a parameter around her high school, and so I could get alerted exactly when she left that building and when she arrived at that building and when she arrived at home and got home. We have it on our, we all have it actually. I even have it on him so that I know when he gets home just because at work or whatever. We all love it.
We're working through our trust issues.
I was coming home from Indiana and I decided to do something wonderful for my wife and stop by Cheesecake Factory and get her a cheesecake on the way home. And literally she texts me and goes, "What are you doing at Cheesecake Factory?" I was like, man, come on. And that's only through the iPhone Find My stuff. That's not through Life 360. But yeah, location is that.
She found out I was talking to her dad about proposing to her because she looked at my location.
Oh.
So you talked to my dad about something? Right?
I'm talking to your dad about something.
Ruins life.
It is. It does. You know, you can.
It doesn't ruin life. It's a surprise.
You can get on there and I guess you can pause your location stuff on Find My at least, but on the make sure that on Life 360 that your kids can't just like tell them like you can't turn off your phone. Like don't turn off your phone if you don't want to, because I'm going to see that you turned off your phone.
I would just note that there are apps
of course there is.
And make it look like it's live, and we
Oh.
know from personal experience where that happened, where you could make it look like you are live moving.
Wasn't me.
I mean, you can make it look like it's live moving in the apps, and you thought you were one location.
So that happened, huh?
Yeah, like we know personal situations.
See, that is why I get, like, why would Apple allow, does they have an Apple iPhone? Or,
I'm not sure if that was Life 360 or if that was Apple in that situation. I can't remember.
well, no, you said it was an app that spoofed the location, not called Life 360, right? Okay, so that means they downloaded it from the Apple App Store. So my thing was, why would Apple allow something like that? Because they don't care, right? And again, that is why it's up to us.
Because they care about the child's privacy.
Apple is so weird about their privacy stuff that they would not unlock I had a girl lost her father, and she wanted to unlock her iPad. She couldn't figure out the password. She had to bring a death certificate to the Apple store, and then they told her they couldn't do it there, that she had to send it to Cupertino to get it unlocked. And then and I'm like, what? They take it way too far. And I will tell you right now, in the case of YouTube, we need to get done. We're not going to be on time here. In the case of YouTube and Netflix, like in the case of all these are 26-year-old engineers that are writing this stuff that have never had kids. Okay? And so you have to make sure that we are doing our due diligence around these things, because these companies are not going to do it for us. The government's certainly not going to do it for us. So we're going to have to take it upon ourselves to protect our kids. Okay? Our Pact is one that I've really liked for a long time. And again, it is not the best. It's not the most foolproof either, but it is really solid. And so I'd highly recommend that one if you're having trouble with any of these things as well. These apps are going to cost you a few bucks a month, right? And we're used to the few bucks a month. We've got 1 million subscriptions to like everything these days. But one of these would be very important. So if you find that this is working for you, then it's worth it, okay? This is one of those types of things that you need to look at. Our Pact and, of course, Life 360. Those are really the kind of advanced feature parental control apps. If you cannot accomplish what you want to accomplish with screen time and digital well-being, I would move to something like these. Okay? Questions? All right, that was kind of a screenshot of, it's kind of looked kind of old, but at the same time, it's functional. It works. It's a lot like the toaster in my kitchen. It's old and it looks really, really bad, but it still works, so it's fine. Amazon Kids Plus, somebody was asking about that. This is actually really specific for younger kids. So, of course, I wouldn't give a device to a really young kid that they used for an extended amount of time. But kids ages 5 to 12, Amazon Kids Plus is actually a really good thing, and it only works on Kindle Fire devices. And Kindle Fires are very inexpensive, especially around Christmas time. You can get them. They can run. They don't run everything. They don't run all the iPad apps. They don't run Fortnite. Don't get me started on Fortnite. They don't run all the high-level games, but they will run some stuff that is appropriate for younger kids. And the cool thing about this is that they give you, like, it's a kid's interface. I wish the iPad had like a kid's mode, but it doesn't. This has a kids mode on it, and so you can get these devices. They're very cheap. With Kids Plus, if you pay for the 12 months, I think they give you like insurance. Like if the kid destroys it, you can like send it back, and then they'll give you just another one replacement for it. It's actually really good. So this is a good alternative. What I would do is not what I did. I would start off with something like this and then move to a more expensive advanced device like an iPad later, because you can't go backwards like we tried to do. Our kids was like, they revolted on us when we tried to do this. So I would start with a Kindle Fire device and then move to something more sophisticated when they get a little bit older. That makes sense? Okay. Questions? All right, last thing we're going to do, and church will be starting here in about half an hour. We're going to go over just a few minutes. Is that okay? Okay. One of these companies does a really good job. One of these companies, well, they're improving. I'll tell you that much. I updated this in August. They're improving. They're still not great. Okay, so Netflix. You have to go to netflix.com on a desktop or a browser to check all these things, and you can check all of these different settings, right? And then again, this is just a snapshot of what you're going to run into with any streaming service or any kind of social media service or any of that kind of stuff, is they're all going to have a different kind of way that they treat their settings. And this is part of that, where you've got to go into each setting of each app that you allow your kids to use, okay? So you can do all this stuff, and you can go and get this interface right here. So you can go to all these sub-accounts in Netflix. I'm sure you're familiar with some of this. And then you go into all of these parental controls and parental controls at the profile level. And you can actually go here and say, I want to do the Netflix kid experience, and I want that to be them. That actually allows them to sign on to this without a PIN code, okay? So they can get on that and see kids-only content without a PIN code. Well, one of the cool things that Netflix does is that allows you to actually restrict certain titles. So you can see here, those are real things that we blocked. At one point, Dora the Explorer, when our kids were very young, she was on the list as well. And it was just because Daddy didn't want to hear it anymore. They get on there, where's Dora? Dora's, oh, I guess it's taken off of Netflix. I'm sorry. You know, it's like, it was so awful, but I have no regrets. Like Bonnie's like, my wife was, she goes, did you take that off? She goes, okay. But seriously, there's some stuff that we wanted to take off there, restricted titles. Like, have you ever seen that old cartoon, Horrid Henry? He's awful to his parents. And one of our kids started watching that. It's just a cartoon. But he started saying stuff to his mother that he said on the, and I was like, no, no, no. This is going to be blocked. Now, on a serious note, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, Deanna, you may have said this to Megan, but there's a whole bunch of Netflix content out there right now pushing LGBTs.
That's exactly what I was going to get into.
Transformers pushing, trans characters, stuff like that, their pronouns and everything. So yeah, she just went in yesterday and was restricting titles for.
And I love this. Now, this is an old screenshot from when our kids were a little bit younger, but our list is really long nowadays, because there is all sorts of stuff on there that I've just run across. I'll hear it as they're watching. I'll be like, is that for, okay, turn this off. Turn this off. And then I'll just kind of log on and go blocked. And they just never even shows up. It never sees it again. So that's a pretty good feature. One thing that I really like, one thing that really brought this to a head for me, and actually what caused this to be a setting for Netflix, was the show 13 Reasons Why. Y'all remember that?
Yes.
It was about the kid that it was like glorification of suicide, this type of thing. And I'm sitting there, if you've got PG or PG-13 enabled, that was a splash screen. It was the thing that they were promoting. It was made by Netflix, so they were going to promote it. And I don't want my 13-year-old seeing that kind of trash. And so it's kind of along the same lines of what you're talking about, is like, man, this helps us be really good at blocking those specific things that you can do. Now, I think Disney Plus also does something like this. I know that some of the other services, you can block certain things. Not all of them do it, but most of them do. So make sure that you check your streaming service of choice to do that. But yeah, you don't want your kids seeing agenda pushing stuff. Questions? You can do all sorts of maturity ratings here. You can check their maturity ratings. You can move them as you wish. All sorts of different stuff. It's really cool. Now, for a long time, YouTube, I really just trashed YouTube. Because one, I really love YouTube, but YouTube's parental controls were just awful. They were terrible because they did not require any kind of password or PIN number to bypass. You could just go in and change them. And the thing that I've seen, this is an older screenshot, but you could go into the settings and you could do these things. You could clear watch history, clear search history, pause watch history, pause search history. I mean, that to me sounds like a 25-year-old engineer in Mountain View, California coming up with this stuff. Hey, that's a good idea. It's a terrible idea. For a 15-year-old boy to have access to do this, to watch whatever he wants to on YouTube, and then be able to just make it disappear as if nothing ever happened, that's a terrible idea. So I was actually recommending to parents for a long time, do not let your kids have the YouTube app, right? I was saying that for a long time. Well, this year, I'll go back. They actually did a really nice parent feature thing to where you can log on to your account and tie their account into it and run through all of this stuff. You can block channels. You can change your kids' content settings. The most important thing is that they can't change it. That's the most important because you're the only person that can log in and has a password and such like that. Now, if they get a password, then they can get access and they can change stuff, so don't allow that. But you can actually see all of what your kid has watched. You can block channels. You can change your kid's content settings. It's actually a pretty good step in the right direction, okay? So for a long time, YouTube just was awful. It took them forever to get this done, okay? You can actually go and set these settings. I don't like these general settings because I need a little bit more control over some kind of stuff like that. But again, you can go back here and you can block those channels. You can block specific things on content. You can say absolutely no violence whatsoever. You can say absolutely no cursing whatsoever. I don't know, and again, all these companies, they're in California, very liberal companies. I don't know if you can get on stuff and say no LGBTQ material like that. You probably can't. So that's one of those kinds of things where like you probably can't do that. They're not going to allow you to just block that stuff, okay? So again, just keep control over that. You're going to have to, this is a snapshot of everything that you're going to have to do for all of these different apps that you allow your kids to watch, okay? And again, I would really limit that in the early years, especially even in their teen years. I would limit these things to be like, hey, you can't be on 5 or 6 different social networks. You get to pick like 1 or 2. That's it. So I'd really limit the scope on what you have to manage as well, okay? But also limiting what they can do and what content they see. Yes?
Is YouTube like considered a social network?
That's what I was saying. I was saying I consider YouTube a social network.
It's definitely social media.
I would say it's social media because of the fact of like the content, the memes, the different things that you can see. I would consider it a form of social media for sure.
Comments on it too,
Mhm.
like it's just really social. People roast each other and stuff on Twitter.
Okay, last thing here. We're going to get to it. Yeah, look at YouTube Kids is not squeaky clean either. So if you think YouTube Kids is like, oh, I can just let them watch YouTube Kids. No, that's not squeaky clean either. So you need to make sure that you're checking up on that and looking at the settings in that app as well, okay? Last thing, last slide. If you need to do anything with the phone, if you want to contact your cell phone provider, Verizon, AT&T, whatever, T-Mobile, if you need to block a number from texting or calling, shut off texting, limit data. If you need to deactivate the personal hotspot, that's probably something you should have already done with your teenagers, right? Then you can call them. I have found that calling them on their customer support is much better than trying to walk into a cell phone store. Because the people in the cell phone store are not there to fix your stuff. They're there to sell you a phone and to sell you a service or whatever, okay? But I've found the customer service reps are very, very good. I mean, I've had probably 5 or 6 experiences with them, and they're always been very friendly and always worked with you, okay? Questions? I know it's been a lot, but has this been helpful? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we do have the Amazon Kids, so you're familiar with that?
A little bit, yes, ma'am.
So the thing, like, I tried to go on and remove, like the videos, like YouTube videos and all that, and it won't let you.
It won't let you manage that.
It won't.
I haven't used it in a while. I used it for a little while, but
Even if I turned off a lot of the stuff, but there's literally on the kids version, because that's all my kids have access to, is just the kids.
yeah.
Amazon thing, and when you click on, it's called videos, at the very top it's like games,
Mhm.
books, videos.
So you can't remove that, huh?
I don't know how to do that. I don't know if maybe. Yeah. You need a right click.
I need to right click.
Yeah, because like my kids would get on
But there's a selected version of videos, yeah. I wouldn't want that.
I know, I can't stand it. And I don't know how to take it off.
But we also took all the friends.
Yeah, I just have to take it off. But, I mean, that's the only feature I don't care. Everything else I love about the Amazon thing. But
You could open DNS them and block every YouTube thing. It would just show up as a black box. That's what we do. That's what we do for ads as well. I do OpenDNS. I've installed it on all the devices in my house, including my children's iPads. They don't see ads. They don't see, well, basically, they don't see anything I don't want them to see.
But on the kids one, it doesn't let you.
Well, what I'm saying is that you could do that at the router level.
Oh.
You don't do it on the device, you do it at the router level. So if you do something like, that's a little bit technical, but if you block youtube.com, every domain that it's pulling those videos from, then it's not going to be able to pull any videos from it.
Yeah, I was about to say, is that specifically for individual devices, or is that as a whole?
Mm-hmm.
Individual devices?
You can set it up that way, yeah. Now, if you get, there's a couple of different ways to do that. So you could do that through like the Eero system. I have it blocked to where my kids cannot go to, what was it? I can't, it was some weird international, maybe it was like a Russian site where they were, it was kind of, do what? Well, no, it was a superhero kind of thing that they were looking up, and it completely went to the wrong place, and so I just blocked that domain. But I've got it blocked on their devices. YouTube.com, anytime, that device will not go to YouTube. No matter what they use, no matter what VPN they've got inside, no matter if they have everything unlocked on that device for some reason, YouTube will not show up for them. And also all of the other websites, like I've got 25 porn sites that are listed on there. Any domain or any subdomain of those websites blocked instantly. And when it blocks them, when it detects that something has been tried to, like I say, my kid tries to go to youtube.com, it will immediately send me a notification. Hey, this device tried to go to this.
So can you
And I'm like,
keyword searches as well?
no, because I don't allow them Google either. I don't allow them to do any kind of search. Now, one thing that I have found that gets around the Google search is the Siri search. Like when they type to Siri now, and I'm just like, turn it off. I've turned it off, and some reason Apple turns it back on every single time it updates. And it just infuriates me once you want to throw the iPad across the street, right? And so it's infuriating. So it's like you got to stay on it nonstop with that. I do a lot of technical stuff on the router level to block a lot of that stuff, and they don't even know about it.
So are there settings on Alexa that you can start doing?
Alexa has, so again, that's when you get into, all Alexa is calling, all they're doing is calling an API. All they're doing is calling an API or calling a .com to get that information. So you can block that at the router level. And all Alexa will say is oh, I can't find that information for you right now. That's all it'll say if it's blocked.
I have one question.
So, yeah, oh, I understand. And that is, I will tell you, that's one thing I never talked about, but that is the reason why, we do not have any speaking things in our house. We learned very quickly how quickly that devolves with 3 boys talking to Alexa. And we were like, nope, take this back to the store. And we don't have any of that. And it's very inconvenient for us. I'd love to have some of that stuff. But all they would be asking it was, oh, spell poop and all this. You know, they're just asking it weird stuff all the time like that. But yeah, did you know you can hear the recordings of everything that they ask on Alexa? You can go on your Amazon account and hear what they said and ask the request of what they said. You can do it. It's pretty deep in the settings, so you'll have to go into like Alexa settings and stuff, but you can hear everything that they've said. Unless that has been turned off, then you can.
You can't say it wasn't them. It was my brother. It was dummy. It had the voice.
Yep, I have your voice.
When it comes down to smart appliances that actually use your Wi-Fi or whatever, can those be also adversely affected when it comes down to people like sitting out or where they can actually adversely affect your smart devices as well? Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am. Kids can use, we got a what? We're done? We're good? Okay, we're done. Thank y'all very much.